Want to achieve network marketing success? Then join the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, this is going to be a real privilege. We have a very, very, very talented young lady on the phone, Miss Meagan Monroe. She's a visionary speaker, seasoned investor, serial entrepreneur, passionate about educating minority communities, making a global and a social impact on others. She's just 30 years old, but she's a trailblazer in blockchain, NFT, and crypto spaces. She uses innovative strategies like NFT gamification to inspire and educate audiences worldwide. She specializes in empowering women to elevate their financial situations through holistic wealth building strategies. Her mission is to redefine success by merging sustainable luxury, financial literacy, and purposeful living, helping women and communities thrive in today's evolving digital economy. So the timing could not be any better as we begin 2025 together, Meagan. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from San Salvador, El Salvador. How are you?
It is an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm super excited to be conversing with a legacy. So I have, had my go in the realm in which you operate, and I'm honored to know the type of character that a man like yourself has to have in order to be achieving the level of success that you have and the love of God's people.
Well, thank you.
It is a noble work, and it's what do they say about network marketing? It's you get paid to do your personal development. That's 100% developed a lot of the skill sets that you just shared.
Self-development program with a marketing plan.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's been. It's been April 18th will be a 42-year journey for me. Starting way back as a college kid. But hey, today's about you. I mean, I want to talk about Meagan because Meagan is a remarkable young woman. You're doing so many different things. You've already had such a great career in network marketing. You've been super successful in my industry. But now you're super successful in the crypto world and this whole world that us older folks look at, respect, and are just learning about that you grew up with. So we want to talk about that a little bit. But I guess first question, Meagan, is how did you get started with blockchain?
So as a person who started in network marketing and then shifted into internet marketing, I specialize in something called viral organic lead generation. So I create campaigns that bring in a lot of people, usually with one trigger sentence. It's a power question, and people will opt in to participate in the progressive realization, right, of what it is that I'm sharing with them. And what ended up happening was I turned into a breaker. I started breaking technology like sales processors. I started breaking computer servers that were hosting the website because too much traffic. And one thing that I needed was the ability to capture limitless potential. And the blockchain has unlimited bandwidth. It can facilitate unlimited amount of transactions. It can facilitate servicing multiple groups of people interfacing on a platform at one time. You may know that if you have a Zoom account, if you want 500 members on your Zoom meeting, you have to upgrade, right, to a bigger plan. And so when I was trying to host a webinar of 10,000 of my people after I went viral, and I had a giant group of 13,000 people that were wanting to learn about my topic I was talking about, I went to Zoom and they were like, well, pay me $27,000 and we'll host your event for 1 month. And I'm like, and then you want another 27,000 the next month, and then the next month? And I'm like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to impact people who are at a starting point if I don't have the infrastructure in place to facilitate the transformation that's required for people to be able to be like little children and enter the kingdom of heaven, be in the theta state where they're not feeling preyed on by sales tactics or anything, and they can just come in as they are and begin transforming. So for me, when I started to build blockchain infrastructure, it was because I needed a playground for my people to come that was protected from predators, one, but two, could handle the volume of engaged people, right? Because a lot of websites, they may have 10 to 100 people on it at a time, most of them 1 to 2, if that, at a time. My websites needed to be able to host thousands of people at a time, because that's the kind of volume that follows me where I go, and the people, the transformational leaders that I partner with. So blockchain infrastructure was a requirement for me to continue my career. And then what ended up happening was I started learning that when I distribute my data on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, where I am an influencer, my data is being resold. My voice is being resold. My content is being redistributed and can be taken without my permission. And as a matter of fact, Facebook's securitizing my data. And I was like, why are people monetizing me, but I am not taking control of my soul's expression and my lifetime and getting paid to exist by being the one that contributes the distribution of that data or that expression, right? Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening was I built the Mint My Life protocol as a smart contract protocol that allows people to protect their dot and that the soul, right? And everything that they express through our technology on the blockchain allows them to capture that and then choose how that's licensed and redistributed. If someone, you know, I usually have my Starbucks cup here, but right now I'm failing my presentation. But I have my Starbucks cup, and if that's in my video, Starbucks can bid through my technology to run an ad in that video, instead of on TikTok where you have, you know, companies come and they steal the creator's video, and there's no protection for the creator. Right. So that kind of what got me into the blockchain space was I needed better payment processing. I needed unlimited bandwidth to host my community so that I could create how I wanted to. And I needed to have limitless potential. And the only place that exists without, you know, regulatory entities or central banks interceding or people asking questions about stuff that's just not their business, meeting like regulatory entities that don't have the best interest of the community in heart. They just want to know what's there so that they can get their piece of the money. The blockchain allows us to have transparent records, right? I'm a woman. I don't want to worry about the financial side of things. I can just download the transaction history and ship it to whoever wants to read my stuff. It's completely transparent, but I have unlimited bandwidth to be who I am. And that's what the blockchain has done for me and why I got started there.
Amazing. Amazing. You mentioned a power question.
Mm-hmm.
Give me an example.
An example of a power question. I mean, you've like, it started when I learned about the if I would you, right? Back in network marketing days, right?
Heard that before.
I'm going to communicate in the language I know that we can interface with.
If
right?
I would you, yeah.
If I would you. So that was like when I first saw the effect of that. And then an example of now is like, who wants to get started in Bitcoin and blockchain but doesn't know how, right? Or who wants to get started in Bitcoin and blockchain but is afraid of losing money. And these are just off the top of my head because I was not expecting that question. But I have queued in, and you can go on my Facebook profile, and I will have like 79,000 shares or hundreds of comments of people, and they click, and then I've got systems that run them through my automations. But these questions allow for me to not have to solicit leads, and instead I'm like, hey, I've got this opportunity for you to come learn this thing, you know, I'm an expert in. I'm the Bitcoin girl living in El Salvador. I have a Bitcoin baby I had in El Salvador because of Bitcoin. Like, come here and learn with me, so you don't have to go through the trouble that I've gone through. And so it's attraction marketing mixed with authenticity, right? And those power questions allow for an activation point for people to come in and work with you without you having to reach out and solicit them, and without them having to like break down and say, I need help. So it creates a safe space for people to interface together.
Wow. Great stuff. How do you inspire women? A lot of women are following you, I notice, on your different social medias, and I know you're an inspirational source to many of them. What are some of the tools that you're using to inspire ladies to do similar things to you, maybe other business ventures, but to say, hey, you have an entrepreneur in you, be an entrepreneur?
So for me, I, at 20 years old, had to figure out how to be a full-time stay-at-home mom and make money, right? And what I was at the time that I didn't realize was a platform. And so I teach people PPP, platforming, paperwork, and partnerships. I teach people how to utilize, they figure out what you're good at. So if you, like last night, I perfected our cinnamon roll recipe. I go on Facebook right now and say, who wants a perfect cinnamon roll recipe? We've nailed it. I'm going to get 5 to 10 people, right, from my personal Facebook page that are going to be like, I want that recipe. I'm going to throw them into a Facebook group where I'm sharing my cinnamon roll recipe. And I may go post that in 10 Facebook groups about cooking. And I may have 100 people comment on those. So now I've got 1,010 people in my Facebook group, and I've got a platform where I can share information, right, about baking. And now I can start selling my recipes or a cookbook. And so I taught women, especially, like, before you think about going to be an entrepreneur or all the complicated, like, identity shifting thoughts that we need to make, I started with get paid to exist for being what you already are. What recipe for success do you already have in your life? Everybody has a system on how they operate in their life. And no matter how dysfunctional people may be, they have a way to, like, tie their shoes and brush their teeth. Somebody somewhere needs to learn that, right? And so I teach women how to curate a space that's their own space, that they have a platform. And then I secondarily teach them how to do things like what we're doing right now. So I'll have them go to environments where they can connect with 1 to 3 thought leaders in that space. And I challenge them to create an environment where we're doing like this. And then they can sell access to that community so that that person can redistribute their goods or services. And so I teach people how to turn their platform into a business. But the last thing that I teach them is how to put the proper paperwork in place so that they don't deal with things like, you know, people stealing their ideas. So non-disclosures, I teach them non-disclosures, and I teach them non-circumventions. And then I teach them how to structure their partnership agreement so that they have an equitable relationship. And then once people are in that place where they're, you know, this 30 days tops, I got people making money every single time. And that comes from the network marketing background and being able to duplicate myself, having a business model that works no matter what product's being sold, right? So we plug them into that model. And that's why people come to me, because they look in their reality and they're like, I'm in a financial crisis, or I'm dealing with wanting to elevate my life. Meagan, how can I shift from where I'm at to where I want to be? And I'm like, well, tell me what you're good at, and let's build a platform based on that. Because if you can sit down and have an authentic conversation for 30 minutes about something, and that activates your soul, that's that authentic frequency that it draws people to you. And now you have a special place in the universe that you can be yourself, that you can make money. And then you can talk about, now that I've got seed money, what do I want to do as an entrepreneur? Or what company do I want to get involved in, right? Now you have options. And I think that people only ever get into trouble times or compromising situations when they don't have the opportunity to make another decision, right? They have to make, they've got limited options, and it's shit or shit. Please excuse my language, right? And so with this process, they give themselves space for 2 to 3 weeks. And now this is called the Wealthy Apprentice program, right? So now they become a wealthy apprentice where they're funded, but they're able to walk alongside me or one of my educators as a master. And I can teach them my craft, but they're not in that scarcity mindset. So they're not in fight and flight. They're able to retain information. And like I said at the beginning call, be like little children to enter this kingdom of heaven. That's the theta state of mind. That's where you're not afraid of what's going on around you, and you're open to be curious and start creating something with your reality. So that's how I inspire women.
Love it. Love it. Well, let me come back to something. You mentioned the 3 PPPs. Break that down again.
Okay. So it's platforming,
okay,
partnerships, and paperwork. And what I teach my girls to do is to take down digital real estate.
Describe that. What's digital real estate?
So the first thing that we immediately do is establish a Facebook group, because it's the easiest way to create a pool that is yours, and you are the boss in there. Because a lot of people feel like they're out of control in their reality. They've got bosses, they've got partners, they've got kids, everyone's demanding on them. Create your own space. And now you've got a block of real estate that you are the boss of, that you can charge rent, right? You can charge for people to lease. And you have billboards, right? Where you can advertise every day in there. And then you have a place to curate content. So the first place we start with is a Facebook group, but then you go and protect your dot, which is your domain, right? We get their website set up, and I utilize, specific websites depending on the per person, but template built website, get your name established. And then now we've got other social media platforms. So a live interview on Facebook or TikTok, that's kind of starting to get the organic traffic going. And then I have them go and identify who they are, like that recipe, right? What can you do, like your cinnamon rolls, that works every time? So go find 10 Facebook groups with those keywords, join those Facebook groups, and now use the power questions and make yourself some friends. Mm-hmm. Okay. Get your friends and move them into your Facebook group. And now you've got hot potatoes to party with. And so that's what it's like, taking down digital real estate. You are establishing yourself in different domains. And inside of that domain, you have a strategy to put up these I call it kingdom building wealth principles. And you hear me reference the Bible. I am a kingdom kid. I know how to build wealth based off of kingdom principles in the Bible. And that's what I express in my business and everything else I do. It's not so much religion. It's just like using the principles, right? And so for me, I teach my girls how to navigate the landscape of media to facilitate building platforms, which is that digital real estate for themselves.
Got it. Wow. Love it. Love it. Interesting. And I've never heard the term digital real estate till right now. And,
Really?
and as kind of a, I wouldn't call me a total newbie to social media, but to somebody who hasn't used it to his advantage until now. I mean, I've been podcasting for 4 years and all that, but now we're really stepping it up with
Yeah.
we're doing now the next few years.
Yeah.
And, I love that digital real. I never heard that before. It makes sense. Just totally, yeah, right. It's like your house, but it's you. I love it.
It's called taking territory. So I teach them how to take territory. And the cool thing is like, there's unlimited land in the digital space. So you don't ever have to feel like you're going in and removing something from people, which with real estate in the real life, that's kind of like a sharky environment, right? But
Sure.
the thing is that with my Facebook groups, like this year, I was 340,000, right? That we made off Facebook groups this year. And that's digital products, digital conversations. That's something that doesn't require a fulfillment or a business organization that a lot of us don't have the training. I was a network marketer. I was not a corporate, right? I never learned corporate infrastructure. And so I have structured it now, but I never was taught the right way, right? Never went to business school. So when you have the opportunity to have a cash flowing asset like a Facebook community or a LinkedIn group or a spaces on X, that's an income stream that's supernatural. You can use bite-sized transactions. Like we did 170,000 in a weekend one time off of an $11 recording for a free session with 7,000 students because of a hot topic with a power question that was the perfect call to action for people to come in and listen to what it is that we were sharing. And then when you match that up with what we've been talking about, that's a transformational revelation. When you can sit there as somebody who's thinking that they're stuck to say $2,000 to $5,000 a month, and then you realize, like, as a really amazing mother, that you have all these systems that you're doing all day to run your house as a queen, right? Because you're literally running a kingdom in your home. And then you're able to translate that to people who, like myself, may have not been raised on how to run a home too well, right? I didn't have a normal home. My home was a little dysfunctional growing up. We'll do my story some other day, but I didn't have that example. And so I looked to mothers who were mothered properly so that I learned how to mother properly, right? And so when we duplicate those successful copy what wealthy people do, and in due time you'll become wealthy. When we duplicate those behaviors, that creates an environment for success. And so you focus on what's the first transformational encounter that you can have with somebody, matched up with that power question, and then you go and you cast your net broad. I don't teach people to stick to your Facebook profile. I teach people how to take down expanded territory and then go bring all of those people back into their environment where they can curate the culture, and not only curate the culture, but protect the experience of people going through that process and realizing who they want to be.
Nice. Wow. Great. So let's talk a little bit about financial literacy, because I know that that's something that's dear to your hearts, dear to mine as well. Years and years ago, probably about the time where your parents were thinking about having you, I was in a network marketing company in Alabama, of all places, Birmingham, Alabama. And, I had this old football coach, a guy named George Blanton, and he had been with A.L. Williams, right, which is now Primerica. And he was very successful with it, but he was a high school football coach in I think he was in Georgia. And anyway, I remember having a conversation with him, and he said what he had learned along the way, right? Like, if you want, if you want to study football, you study Bill Belichick or Vince Lombardi. If you want to study, if you want to make money, you study people who made money. What you just said, study people who made money. And he said, once I started doing that, is when he became wealthy, right?
Yeah.
And I was a kid then. I was, I don't know, 28 years old or whatever. And it was a great lesson. And financial literacy to me became very, very important at that time. And my story, real quick, started in network marketing. First company had problems with the FDA.
Oh my
Got in
God.
financial services with Metropolitan Life, one of the biggest financial service companies in the universe. Spent about 3.5 years underwriting policies. And what happened to me, Megan, was interesting. I would sit in front of people who were now about the age that I am. They were in their 60s. And I'd have to come back, and this was before laptops. So like you get all their information, how stocks, bonds, mutual funds, da 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 da. Go back to the office, and I'd run it all through this old Honeywell computer system, right? And it would spit out numbers, and then you'd go back and you'd say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here's what you're going to have to retire on. And
Yeah.
nine times out of 10, I'd go back reluctantly, and I'm 20 some odd years old, to say, I got to tell somebody, older than my parents at that time, they're not going to be able to retire and keep their house because
Yeah.
they didn't put away enough money. And all of a sudden, that financial literacy became really important to me as an individual, and
Yeah.
to teach it to other people, male and female, in network marketing. And it's not what you make, it's what you keep, and it's what you put away for your future self.
Come on. Come on.
You're doing a terrific job of that. I'd love you to talk about how you're doing that and some of the tools that people can implement that listen to us, so that they don't screw up like some of those. They're the 1 out of 10 that you go, oh, you're going to be able to stay in this house and buy a vacation house and have a nice life. How do they do that?
So for me, I hadn't ever been around money. And so I was always finding ways to make money since I was a little kid. I had a locker store. Like I was always hustling, lemonade stand. I was the kid that would mow your lawn, do your leaves, whatever. But like you said, the keeping of the money, that wasn't something that, it was ever even an option, because there was always not enough money at the end of the month. It was more months than money. When I came into network marketing and I started making money, I was like, what do I do with this? And I started going through the process of realizing that the world was actually playing against people like me. I was a consumer, and I needed to understand how to shift from being a consumer to being someone that was a producer and a distributor, and then someone that would be ultimately went from trading my time for money to trading my money for money. And it took me until about 2016, to learn that I could trade my money for money. I didn't know about passive income. I didn't know that there was even like bank accounts where you could earn, interest. Like I didn't know that you could have life insurance policies that you could put funds into, and that those life insurance policies would not only pay for your death, but could pay for a better type of life. I went through a brain injury and a spinal injury 2 years ago, and I just learned that there was a type of life insurance policy that would have paid for my disability during that time had I been in that. So I've been studying different vehicles, and then started implementing different vehicles that have facilitated a lifestyle that sustains itself no matter where I'm at in the world. So right now I'm in El Salvador, right? I established the company Eden, which is the Economic Defense Education Network, so that I could teach people coming out of poverty or even middle class, the battles that you have as the middle class, where you may make a good amount of money, but you've established a lifestyle that has expanded past your capability to perform and save, or perform and invest. And what it looks like to get involved in investments, like when I was in West Texas, it was doing small real estate deals. So I would find houses for like $20,000-$30,000. And then I would do group economics, where I would go into Facebook and I would ask 10 of my girls, who wants to come in for $3,000 and us buy this property together? And then we flip the house for $150,000 and split the profit. I had the people there, the contractors to do the work, things like that. And so it was me learning about how investing works that shifted my ability to think thoughts about building financial infrastructure like blockchains. And what I would suggest to people is the first thing that you need to establish for yourself is your trust. I did not know that there was a private side of the financial world. Like I said, I was a consumer and I was a public child. My parents had, food stamps and things like that. So I was on the side of the ledger that is a dependent. to a system, whereas there is a group of people that the system is dependent on. And that's the type of person that you want to bridge from to then become completely private. And that's when you start operating in those trust vehicles where you're not necessarily under the jurisdiction. The Bible says to be in the world, not of the world. So I have gone through the process of establishing a smart trust protocol on the blockchain that allows for individuals to come and interface with decentralized finance protocols, fractionalized ownership of not only the blockchain technology, but of real estate and of real life investment projects like the one that we have on the beach here in El Salvador, where people can come in and they can take a little bit that they have. And then, like I told you, with that $11 turned into $170,000 and 7,000 people on the weekend, that little bit becomes a lot, right? So my financial literacy conversation is, one, knowing what kind of taxes that are coming with making public facing currency, right? When you're sitting in a network marketing position, all of a sudden you've made $500,000 for the first time in your life in a year. And what kind of tax obligation that puts you in, because you may have not established a company to shield you from that, or put that income in your position and then had that paying into, another vehicle and then coming to you with a per diem or something like that, that was allowing your lifestyle to uphold the position. And then the tax liability lies on the LLC instead of on the person receiving the income. And then utilizing that space. So here with Bitcoin being legal tender, I'm saving 33 to 40% capital gains tax when I'm liquidating my Bitcoin. So having my daughter here, I took an $83 flight out of Miami. I gave birth to my daughter. She's got an Salvadorian passport. I have a Salvadorian nationality company. And now moving my Bitcoin through my Salvadorian company, because I'm getting paid in Bitcoin. So I put those contracts under that company. It's shielding me as a United States citizen from 40% capital gains tax. So every $1 million, that's $400,000. Right? And now what does that $400,000 look like? That looks like a bunch of houses in El Salvador for my company, because we want to own nothing and control everything, right? Because that protects the person, that protects our daughter. So for me, I didn't know these things. I had encountered a couple different people who were great examples. But one of my mentors, he was like, you don't own your kids. You're public. You get a birth certificate that's conveyed to the trust. It's owned by the United States of America. And if you don't have your kids in a trust, this and so I'm like, what? I gave birth to my child, right? So I went on this journey of understanding what it's like to have trust established, have an estate, have your children have their own trust, and what it looks like to structure a reality around them that protects them, because we're to be in the world, not of the world, from being enslaved to the system. Like the mass majority of us and our parents, like the ones you were talking about, when you sat down with those old people and you said, hey, you don't have enough to even keep your house for retirement. Yeah. It's because they were a slave their whole life, trading their time for money. They didn't have enough to save. And so, and they didn't know how to use these vehicles where when you have, your funds in a trust and you're able to have those trust funds owning properties, and then those properties are earning interest paying back into the trust, or you're able to pull down lines of credit on that where you're not having to pay taxes, you're paying interest, but you're not paying taxes on credit, right? People don't understand this type of conversation, but I'm gonna say this and then I'll end on this topic. In the United States of America, on a Caucasian man around 32 years old, if he earns $100,000, he's going to on average pay 26 to 33% in taxes after he's done earning that 100,000, working maybe 40 to 60 hours a week, right? If he were to borrow that, Maxi's going to pay 8 to 10% interest. Mm-hmm. Why would we go to work? Why would we go to work when we can have conversations like establishing digital real estate? And then you have a skill set where your soul has an expression. People are afraid of AI, like Chris was talking about the other day on the call. I'm like, no, figure out a way to amplify what you are, what you're good at. Even if it's, my dad taught me this wise lesson. Like, some of us don't have dads. We need to know what your dad taught you, because I need to know what I'm supposed to know from a dad, right? Mm-hmm. People don't understand everyone is so valuable, and that artificial system out there that's sucking our life force through taxation and everything else, that sustains itself or it'll go away if we just start focusing on a different type of commerce And that's the real economy. That's the way that me and you can interface together, and that we can find value in this hour that we're spending together. It's going to transform our life and the way that we behave in the future. People need to understand that type of currency. And that's the importance of Eden, because it's an economic defense education network, because we are our real economy. We don't have to sit here and pay to a system that's siphoning off of our life force and forcing us to live a life in deficit, when we were told as kingdom kids that we are to inherit the earth and that we have dominion over this place.
Love it. Love it. You are so wise beyond your years to think the way that you do. So many young people especially need to hear your message, because that is very, very clear. Because otherwise, that's what I sat in front of. And you know what? I still sit in front of that sometimes with people. I had somebody that I did an annuity, because I'm a licensed insurance agent, and on top of network marketing, I've always kind of kept my foot in the door, really for my own purposes, just to keep my education up, because the tax laws and the insurance laws.
Yeah.
But I sat in front of somebody, they had $70,000 to their name, 72 years old, and they think they have a lot of money. I'm saying, in what world? Where are you living? Between 70,000 and Social Security, and this person lives in a nice home. You're not gonna be able to keep this home. This is now. Okay. So, it hasn't changed in the 40 years since I was in the insurance business on a full-time basis. It hasn't changed because people don't bother to get the financial literacy that you just described. Spend any time, like that guy told me years ago, you want to be wealthy, you study money.
Yeah.
You want to be a great football coach, you study Bill Belichick or Vince Lombardi, right? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, hey, what's your definition of success? I'd be interested to hear that.
This one, a progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
Break it down now.
People don't understand what it takes to win. I fight it every day when I'm talking to people and I'm watching them struggle against themselves, and they don't understand that anything that's bringing you closer to that vision that you had casted in your mind, because people don't understand the power of this divine focus. I'm literally spending my lifetime with you right now. People do not understand the concentration of God source energy that is right here in this now. And so when we sit and we have a thought and we set an intention, meaning we make that thought a permanent part of our life's pattern, right? And we say, this is going to happen for me. The progressive realization of a worthy ideal means that we take it in bite-sized pieces and we're moving towards guaranteeing that we're going to get to that place and position. For me, I never take a loss. Everything that I do is a lesson, and it's something that I'm not going to do because I'm going to get to where I've got to go no matter what, because I'm always progressing. I'm always fighting to go towards that. It's like that video that they did, the Facing the Giants, the movie, when he was telling Brock to do that crawling on the football field.
Remember that?
And Brock didn't know that he made it even to the half, but he made it the whole field. That's a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It's when your knees and your legs and your arms are burning. It's when you're willing to do whatever it takes. It's the midnight hours. It's the not going to the parties on New Year's Eve, or even noticing that it's New Year's, because it's always a day that we're supposed to live to the fullest. So that's why me and you are here interfacing instead of partying.
Yeah.
But for me, I believe that Wealthy Woman Enterprises and the expansion of my story, my success, and and what that duplicates into people is a worthy ideal. So I'm here interfacing with you and sharing that mission and vision with you on a call, instead of going to a tea party, right? Or going out to party with friends, because I believe that there are people out there that are suffering and will feel relief. Or I believe that there's people out there who have unlimited potential to create amazing things for this planet, but they don't have something that may come out of my mouth. So I learned when I was very young that even if I feel unworthy, which, we all deal with insecurities and things, that there are people that only I can impact to help them have their revelation process for them to be successful. And so I have to live my purpose. And that definition of success for me, when I heard that progressive realization of a worthy ideal, it's every time that we come back to that divine revelation that made that thought become an intention for us to actualize that in our pattern, right? And become that habit that creates our success. So I love that when I listen to The Strangest Secret, by Earl Nightingale, which is a segment of Think and Grow Rich for those who don't understand it. Sometimes you need something that's just a logical, straightforward pathway to realize that sometimes we take things so seriously that are just not to be taken so seriously. And sometimes it can be so simple as getting up every day in this bag of bones and being willing to take another step towards that thing that you require in order for you to be fulfilled as a human being. So progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That's my definition of success.
I love it. So Meagan, I got to ask you. Now let's have some fun. You and I have something else in common besides our love of business and our love of helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that you and I are water fasters.
Yeah.
How people are going, I'm turning off right now. I don't want to listen to these two idiots.
No, they don't know.
They don't tell them, because I shared earlier, I've done 21 days, I've done 10 days, I've done numerous 5-day water fasts, and I'm a big fan for a lot of reasons. Well, they make any health claims, but you know the power of it. So do I. We were talking about that off camera before. Tell us your experiences with water fasting.
So when I came into encounter with water fasting, I was kind of going through an identity shifting period. I shared a little bit of that with you when we were talking before, where I was coming out of working for a company and kind of being a subordinate for a company to elevating myself to being the brand. And I was trying to figure out what my identity was and who Meagan was outside of the version of myself I created for other people, but also that dis-ease that I had created to accommodate the personalities I was facing with, or what was required of the high demanding realities of network marketing. I mean, you perform like a superhero all day long, every day for everyone and your family. So you deal with things like guilt, shame, etc. So those manifest as physical dis-eases in your body. And I'm not talking about like things like cancer so much, but like back pain or shoulder pain or chest pain, because you're feeling something for someone else. So that makes you dis-eased, right? So when I found water fasting, I was in a state of not feeling too good. And I wanted to feel better. And I found an article of a girl that was talking about curing something she was dealing with. And I was like, I believe in a cure. I don't believe that we are stuck in any specific condition state, whether that's sickness or whatever. And when I found water fasting, and I learned that like after 72 hours, whatever you eat is integrated to your body. So I was like, if I'm not sending something else into my body to respond to for 72 hours, what kind of transformational healing experience or settling into I am that I am I going to experience in that, right? So I didn't have food. I had water because I needed to, but no food and no social media interruptions, no third party advice. And I sat with that experience and there was peace in my body. But what people don't understand is when you don't eat for extended periods of time, which we were supposed to naturally have extended periods of time where we don't eat, because that's normal. We don't normally have, when back in the day, we didn't have restaurants in the wild, wild west when we were, going from Oregon Trail, like I'm from Oregon. So you fast and your body can then begin repairing from the things that we're consuming, or blunt force trauma if we went through an accident or things like that. But people don't understand the mass majority of the energy your body is using is in your gut, digesting food. And so if you're constantly consuming things, whether that's physically in your belly or your ears or your eyes, whatever, when you go into a fasted state, you become clear and settled on who you are. Right. And so I went through this process of beginning fasting, and I did a couple days and I stopped. And I was like, I want to do a 40-day fast. So I went into this fast. I got to day 15. But in this time, I became so settled in myself, and I began receiving such pure information, and my body was performing in a way that I hadn't ever experienced. And it's because I gave it time to actually rest and repair from living. And I think that's what people don't understand, is that you need to take a break. Right. Even God, when he created the earth on the 7th day, he rested. And it's one of the 10 commandments that we are to rest. And so the Bible also says when you fast and pray, and sorry to make it a religious thing, because most of the time this is a super hyper spiritual thing. Not so much the religious aspect, but I really do believe that everyone should experience at least a 3-day water fast in their life.
Well, I couldn't agree more, obviously, but when you think about it, the one thing all the world religions agree upon, right? And think about this: Jesus, Buddha,
Mhm.
Gandhi,
Mhm.
right, amongst others,
Mhm.
they all had one thing in common: they fasted.
Yeah.
Right, the one thing you think about it, all the world's major religions have different periods of time where they don't eat, right? And it is hard to explain that to people that have never done it. I just had a friend that I coached through it on a 5 day. She never had done it before. She came up to me the other day. She goes, "I feel great. I want to do another one." I said, "Well, it's too soon to do another one." I said, there are health protocols, right?
Yeah.
Refeeding being, as important as the fast itself. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. Hey, Meagan, this has been a remarkable interview. I know a lot of people are going to listen to this and want to contact you. So how do they do that?
You guys can reach out to me on any social media platform at Wealth is Monroe, or you can email me at monroe@sovereignwealth.fund, or see me at wealthywoman.enterprises. I work with people that are just wanting to activate their life from the point that they are. So I'm not going to look at you, judge you, and talk about your situation. I'm going to say, okay, tell me where you're at and where you want to be. And then we can navigate your current landscape and appreciate you and use what it is that you currently possess to create a platform for you to start operating in a different reality that's just your own. And now you can create partnerships like the one that me and John have established here today, and move into a place where, with the right paperwork, you can begin to build your real economy, your own economy. So thank you so much for this time, John. It was a freaking pleasure. And I know that we'll probably do this one or two more times. And
Absolutely.
it's thank you.
I could talk to you all day. I come up with about 30 more questions right now, but this has been remarkable. And as we air this in early January, okay, of 2025, best
Wow.
wishes to you and your family. But do you have any parting thoughts for our audience?
Focus on moving into the digital space, and if you want to get ahead of the world, get into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. People are behind the curve, but the banking system is already shifting. This right now, we're seeing it happen in real time. If you're watching this, look into the blockchain space. Contact me, right? You can contact me. I have education protocols for this. But do not let your family get left behind. And the cool thing about being in cryptocurrency and blockchain is it's such a small world that you could be an everyday normal person right now working an everyday normal job. But coming into the crypto space, you're going to meet some of the top CEOs and some of the biggest thought leaders in the world, because it's 5% of the world even know Bitcoin exists. Okay. And the mass majority of people that are actually dedicated to the progress of successful cryptocurrency and Bitcoin blockchain realities are the world's leaders in innovation, philanthropic movements. I think I said it right. And humanitarian events. And so there's a lot of really good things happening in the blockchain space. And I really want people to understand that, like, if you want to talk about generational curse breaking, if you want to talk about positioning your family to have generational wealth, jump into the financial literacy surrounding Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency.
Well, thank you again, and Happy New Year, Meagan.
Happy New Year. Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.